I'm already at a point where I'm comfortable, and it's like, what would there be to gain? You know?
Right. Right. Well, I can't tell you how much I respect you intellectually. I can't thank you enough for being as honest as you are, sir. I respect it. You off the charts. All right. Now, my experience is that real joy, real satisfaction in life comes about, to a large extent, by understanding meaning and purpose in life.
Actually, the one point I wanted to bring up earlier was you talked about how the Big Bang you obviously needed a cause. How did you? Oh, but there's two things we want to do. One was you said you took historical evidence from the Bible,
Right.
and you said you took a step of faith.
Right.
What made you take that step of faith, and what made that
Good.
What made that necessary to take that step of faith?
Okay, good. Then I want to go back because I was trying to remember who wrote The House of the Dead, which emphasizes the whole importance of meaning. So please remind me in case I forget it.
Okay.
All right. Okay, you're asking me, Cliff, why did you take that step of faith?
Or why accept faith in the first place? Faith to me means taking something not based on evidence, but without evidence.
Thanks. I would hate that type of faith. I reject that type of faith.
Okay.
I call that type
Isn't
of
that
faith
like the
blind
dictionary
gullibility.
definition of faith?
Pardon?
Isn't that like the dictionary definition?
No.
Of faith?
Definition of faith is evidence of reliability plus commitment. I go to an airport. I see a hunk of metal.
Well, commitment doesn't make something true, right?
No, that's for sure.
Right.
So that's why I say evidence of reliability plus commitment equals faith.
Okay.
No evidence of reliability plus commitment equals blind gullibility for me. Don't go that route. You'll get ripped off. People will eat your lunch, right? Demand evidence of reliability before you make a commitment. Don't you just marry anybody. Make sure she loves you and she's committed to you,
Right.
right? And if you don't have that evidence that she's reliable, I think you'd be a fool to marry her. Okay? Now, that's what faith is for me. Faith for me is going to the airport, seeing the hunk of metal, saying, this hunk of metal is going to bring me safely to Austin, Texas, give me a break. But then I see the words, Boeing, American Airlines, and I say, the evidence is that that hunk of metal was put together by reliable mechanics. Based on that evidence of trustworthiness, reliability, I make an incredible commitment. I put my body on that hunk of metal.
I prefer to call that confidence, but I guess that's just semantics.
Okay, good. That's okay. I'll agree with you. Confidence. So I have confidence in Jesus Christ based on the evidence that he's reliable. I can promise you, sir, if Jesus Christ had been a first century David Koresh, I would never believe it.
Wouldn't it make more sense then, given that thought of logic, for you to research every single God that has ever been invented so you can make the right decision instead of just comparing Muhammad versus Jesus, and go back and, like, say I researched a certain deity and brought it to your attention, you didn't know about it. Wouldn't it behoove you to look up that deity, compare it to your God? So basically you have infinite amount of time to be looking up instead of, basically attaching yourself to the Christian God.
Okay,
And,
good.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Given what you said, that's what I get from it. It would
Fine.
benefit you more to compare gods that have been created throughout time versus your God, which I'm sure you don't know every God that has ever been created.
And that's why 10 years ago when
So you should still be searching for
a student here came up to me and said, Cliff, the evidence is that this other individual rose from the dead. I had to take him seriously. I said, fine, where's the evidence? He went and found a book. We went across the street down there, sat in a restaurant, and read the text. And as we read the text, I said, look at this. The literary style of this text is mythology, isn't it? And after looking at it closely, he said, you're right. You do not have an historical record of a resurrection that's credible other than the resurrection of Christ when it comes to religions. Osiris? It's not historical narrative. It's clearly mythology, Egyptian mythology. And yes, there's mythology of dying gods and rising gods. But you don't have it in historical narrative like the gospel.
But Carl Sagan also said extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. I don't see any extraordinary evidence presented. Like if I say, for instance, I just had biology class. Now you would believe me because that's not, you know, out of the ordinary. There's people who have gone to biology class, so you could say, yeah, he probably did. So you're not really taking me on blind faith. You're taking me on, taking it back to your analogy about a Boeing plane. Like, I will trust a Boeing plane, but I don't trust a God. I'm not to say that I'm not open to the idea of it. But it's like somebody, for instance, says, you have faith because you sat in that chair that it was going to hold you up. No, that's wrong, because I've had past experiences with chairs, so I can compare it to other chairs. So I know a chair has held me up before, so I trust that it's going to hold me up again. You have one single God who has failed people over and over, and you can't compare him to any other God. Do you see where I'm coming with this? I mean, you can't compare something you've never experienced to something that's not there.
When Carl Sagan said extraordinary events demand extraordinary evidence, what does he mean? What's that extraordinary evidence that Carl Sagan's looking for?
Well, what is the evidence? What was the extraordinary evidence that made you say, okay, this deity exists? What is so extraordinary to you?
Basically, if I look into the face of a Muslim and say, in order for me to believe in Allah and that Muhammad is his prophet, you have to give me extraordinary evidence, I'm convinced to the root of my being I'm being incredibly intellectually dishonest. I'm playing a game.